Welcome to the Soulbriety podcast, where we talk all things from addiction to awakening and the recovery of self, soul, and spirit from being strung out on the greatest drug of all, the external world. This is a place for illuminating conversations that will take you from divided to divine, pain to purpose, and suffering into soulbriety. I'm your host, Lindsay Caracardi, and this podcast is for all the rebel souls who have always sought to live deeply, authentically, and fully expressed as the divine badasses you are. Hello, divine badasses. It's Lindsay here, spiritual practitioner and coach, teacher, seeker, and author of Fractured and the Chakras, a real life, no bullshit guide to healing your life. Welcome to another divine download of the Soulbriety podcast. On today's episode, we are talking about, this is my favorite, drum roll, the whole point of the Matrix. And no, I don't just mean the movies. Are y'all ready to just get rocked today? Are y'all ready to blow it out of the water and to take a little bit more of the red pill and to have your consciousness expanded out? Because there's no going back. So, like when Neo says when Morpheus says to Neo, red pill or blue pill, this is a red pill or blue pill moment for each one of you. Are you ready? So today's episode is really summed up in one of the most perfect quotes by Morpheus from the movie The Matrix, where he says to Neo, sooner or later, you're going to realize, just as I did, that there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. And that, my friends, is exactly what we are summing up in today's episode, that this matrix that we are living in, this divine co-creation that is the matrix of physical reality, the earth matrix, call it whatever you want. It has a very, very, very powerful, intelligent, divine design, and it also has a purpose. It also has a purpose, and that purpose is bringing us to the place where we are walking the path and not just knowing the path. So what do I mean when I say walking the path? What is the path, right? I can hear some of the minds going, what path am I supposed to be walking, Lindsay? What path? And that is the path that we discussed and broke down in the last episode, which is essentially the path of awakening. It's the path of soulbriety. It's the path of coming back into union with yourself as a creator, with yourself as a beautiful, perfect, individualized expression of God. It's the path of coming in to knowing that the rules, that the boundaries, that the physical world are just a reflection, right? The path of knowing that what you are, who you are, exists outside of what you see with your two physical eyeballs. And so I'd like to refer to yet another Morpheus quote from The Matrix, where he says, the Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth, a prison for your mind. Now, I want to elaborate on this a little bit more, because when I felt disempowered and when I was still in the amnesia of forgetting who I was, I felt like I was in a prison, and I felt like I didn't have any control over that prison. And I felt like it was up to somebody else to let me out of that prison, right? And on a physical, real life level, that manifested for me as a drug addiction. It manifested depression, anxiety. I had cancer when I was 28 years old. I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so I know many of you in your own manifestations of that frustration and that powerless are demonstrating similar things, right? Maybe it's just dysfunction in the relationships. Maybe it's that sexual thing that you can't quite, get into true alignment with. Maybe it's food, right? Maybe it's just giving your power away to bosses or to dramatic friends. Maybe you keep going back to that friendship or that relationship that actually really makes you feel like crap. Right? Maybe it's that codependence that keeps popping up where you put everybody else before you. And so I want to take a second here and I want to kind of break on down the ways that this prison, if you will, this imprisoned sense of our mind manifests, because essentially that's what happens, right? We come in and we're born through the veil and we have this amnesia, and that's all by design. It's all by design. We've chosen that because it's through that experience of forgetting who we are that we get to come back into knowing who we are. Right? So for each and every one of you, you've been walking this life and walking this path that has been so perfectly designed for you to remember who you are and remember your highest, most divine self. But the question is, are you allowing your path to bring about that remembering and awakening? Or are you so focused on what you see with your eyes that you think that that is all there is? And when I say what you see with your eyes, I mean the number in the bank account. I mean the relationship or lack of thereof. I mean the partner who maybe isn't doing what you want them to be doing. I mean the children and whether or not they're behaving or not, right? The parent who triggers you, the boss, the job that you keep turning up for that really you hate, right? Whatever that thing is that's manifesting outside of you that has been divinely orchestrated by you for you to remember that you are powerful. Are you surrendering to that thing and letting it show you what it's designed to show you? Or are you so focused on that thing having so much power that you're just locked in the eternal loop of struggle with that thing that is outside of you? Only you can answer this. Because when we are in that state, absolutely, the matrix will feel like a prison for your mind. When you can begin to surrender to the things you've designed for yourself, the things that you have orchestrated for yourself to come into your own knowing, that is when you will recognize the only one who has ever imprisoned you was you. The only one who has ever held the key to your prison was you. And that's the thing that was one of the most profound moments of my first year of actual physical sobriety from drugs and alcohol. Was I remember as I was meditating and I was studying Buddhism and I was really into yoga and I was really into the chakras. And that was kind of where my spiritual awakening journey started. And one of my teachers, Paramahansa Yogananda, he found his way to me in the form of a book. And he's no longer on this earth plane. He hasn't been for many years, but he's there in spirit, right? And teachers find us. They come to us. And so there I was studying all of these teachings and I was meditating and I had no idea how to meditate. And all I could do was, practice stuff that I was reading in books. And so that's what I did. And I had this moment, this profound moment where I was looking back on that day that I talked about in our first episode here, that day when I was in treatment and I made that decision that changed my whole life. And so you can go back and catch up on that episode if you haven't yet. Episode 1. And I recognized that day what had happened was I opened the prison door for myself. I opened the prison door that up until that moment I had been believing someone else was keeping me locked in. And I actually recognized that the door was never locked. It had been open the whole time. I just thought it was locked. I thought I was in a prison, so therefore I was. And so that's the point of the matrix, right? Because whatever it is we believe, whatever it is you believe in your subconscious mind, this matrix that we are living in and playing in will show you exactly what it is you believe. So when I thought that I was powerless and I believed that I was in a prison, I was shown a prison. I was shown powerlessness. When I thought that I was a victim, I gathered proof of that in the form of things that made me feel powerless and people who treated me poorly. When I thought that emotions were bad and scary, I gathered evidence of that out in the world, out in the matrix, right? So whatever the beliefs are in your subconscious mind is what the matrix will show you. If you believe you are abundant and you are worthy and you can have whatever you want, then that is what the matrix will show you. Right? It's so good. So there's one more quote from Neo that I want to pop into this episode here. And it's when Neo says, "I'll show these people what you don't want them to see. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries, a world where anything is possible." And I believe he says that to the architect. And that's what we're doing here. right? Each spiritual teacher, each being of whichever consciousness, whichever faith, whichever tradition, it doesn't even matter, right? Each being that has come into these understandings has been a Neo for somebody, right? Each teacher that has shown someone else where their power is, a world where anything is possible, is playing this same role, right? Because the rules and the controls and the borders and the boundaries and the oppression and the scarcity and the dis-ease and the dysfunction is only there if we believe it is. And there's a lot of it in the collective human consciousness. There is a lot of it. And that's why we continue to perpetuate it. But right here, right now, because the consciousness of humanity is rising, it is accelerating, more and more of that distortion and division and dysfunction is being revealed. It's being revealed on an individual level. And this is why more and more people are suffering and struggling with physical addictions, and all of the dysfunction and codependency is being illuminated. Because the distortions are revealing themselves, right? So they're revealing themselves in our individual lives, and they're revealing themselves in our collective lives. And that is so we can begin to more collectively believe in a world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries, a world where anything is possible. But before that can happen collectively, enough of us individually need to do our work. We need to walk the path of sobriety. We need to walk the path of awakening, of remembering, of not just knowing the path, as Morpheus said, but walking the path. Walking the path means that as we're interacting with the external world, we know it for what it is. It means that when we are finding ourselves giving our power away, or some belief is being yielded up from our subconscious mind about how it has to be hard or lack or scarcity or struggle or whatever it is, we recognize that we are not those beliefs. And even if things are flowing and we're creating plenty of prosperity or a great relationship, we are not those things either. Right? So walking the path is the knowing that we are none of these things that we are creating, that this external world that we are creating in is simply a mirror for whatever we believe in our consciousness, whatever we believe in our subconscious mind, whatever we have directed to be brought to form. The external matrix brings it to form, and it brings it to form not to punish us, but to help us grow. But if we believe that it's here to punish us, if you believe that you are unworthy, and you believe that you are bad, and you believe that there's something wrong with you, then it will be perceived as a punishment, and it's picking on you, and it's out to get you, and all the stories. But as you come to believe and to recognize and know the truth, as I know for you right here, right now, that you are divine, you are perfect, whole, and complete. You are divine, designed exactly as the Great Spirit intended you to be. And as you begin to know more of that inside of yourself, and more of us begin to know that perfection for one another, that is when we will start to create a very different world outside. It all comes down to what you believe about yourself. And this is where it gets a little tricky. So bringing it back down to give you a very tangible takeaway for today. This is where it gets a little tricky, because as a coach, as a spiritual practitioner, and as a human design projector, I see people very deeply. And sometimes I can see more deeply into someone than they are ready to see for themselves. And that is perfection. But before I had done enough of my own work, I used to try to get people to see what I saw. Good, bad, I mean, for lack of a better word, positive, negative, it didn't matter. I would try to get them to see things they weren't ready to see. So maybe I could see how amazing and powerful they were, but they weren't ready to see that. Maybe I could see exactly where the block was because they had this belief that they were guilting themselves, that they were so terrible. They were judging themselves, but they actually weren't ready to see that. So I had to recognize that it's not my job. It's not my role to force anybody to see. They are playing out their path in perfect perfection. I can be a mirror. I can be a love. I can be a light, but I do not have to get anyone to see anything they are not ready to see. Right? I can simply hold up the light and illuminate and trust that they are going to see whatever it is you are meant to see in the perfect divine time. Because each one of us is going to have unconscious places. We're going to have those blind spots, and those are perfection too. Because the higher intelligence that is infinite, right? It can't be infinite, but then in the very next second be limited. It's either infinite or it's not. I either trust God or I don't. I either trust in the intelligence that has created the universe or I don't, and I think that I have to control it. So that's the paradox of the matrix, right? Because in 1 second I can trust it, and in the very next second I can drop into my divided human egotistical self and feel like I have to doubt it and I have to figure it out. And that's where I get to surrender to my journey as perfection, because I can recognize that that is my own subconsciousness and my own programming being revealed to me so that I can transmute it once and for all. And that is the beautiful purpose of this place. So what I would love to offer you today is to, if this episode has resonated with you and this speaks to you, and you're asking, okay, how do I begin to unravel this? How do I begin to reveal what it is that I believe? My first prompt is this, is to look at your life. Look at your life, and your life will show you exactly what it is you are committed to believing. If you look at your relationships and you look for the patterns in your relationships, you will see. You will see a reflection of what you believe about yourself and love and relationships. If you look at your relationship with money and your bank account, you will see exactly what you believe about how supported you are, how abundant you are, what you believe about money. If you look at your job and what you do for work and what you do as your purpose and your expression, you will see exactly what you believe about that. If you believe you are a slave and you have no power, you will see that. If you believe that you can create anything and that you have a purpose, you will see that. It will be mirrored to you in your life. And then I suggest just asking your consciousness to begin to show you what it is you need to see so that you can come into that place where you begin to recognize that there are no rules besides the ones you set. And then when you are ready to go deeper, I always invite you to reach out, to check out the link below and see how we can work together. There's always different ways. I'm offering courses and coaching and ways that we can deep dive together. Some freebies you can check out as well. But I know one thing for certain. Each and every one of you is here for a reason. And I know that you're listening to this for a reason. You didn't find your way here by accident. This isn't just some random thing. You found your way here for a reason, because at some point in your life, you declared something, you desired something, and you were being led to that something. And there's something in this message that is guiding you towards that. There is something here for you. There is a seed. Higher consciousness is planted here for you to move closer into that. And that is what I know to be true, because I know right here, right now, that we are all one. There is no separation, and we are all on this path together. Where I go, we all go. And so I see you. I hear you. I feel you. And I recognize that you are absolutely ready for your divine expression, your divine appointment. You're ready for this work. And I just invite you. I invite you to get curious. And I just invite you to surrender to the perfection of it. Decide to walk the path instead of just knowing the path. I'll see you guys next time. And so it is. Hey, Divine Badass. Thank you again for tuning in to the Soulbriety podcast, where we talk all things from addiction to awakening and the recovery of self, soul, and spirit from being strung out on the greatest drug of all, the external world. So if you know someone that would benefit from joining in our illuminating conversations, please feel free to share this podcast with a friend. And remember, leave a 5-star review if you loved this episode, if you're loving this message, and you know that you are ready to see the world move into soulbriety. Those reviews really help. And please don't hesitate to connect with me on any of the socials. You can find me on Facebook at Lynn's Caracardi, or over on the Instagram at I am Lynn's Caracardi. And be sure to check out the link in my bio and the description for this podcast for some free gifts, resources, your Badass Conscious Creator's Guide, as well as meditations and other ways that we can work together. Go out into the world, be wildly you, and have it all. See you next time.